Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 things you ought to know when it comes to caring for your Philodendron Congo Rojo. This is mine. There's a brand new leaf that's come out not too long ago. It's growing like crazy. So in this video, I will also be repotting this soon-to-be monster into a new container, sharing the correct soil mix or soil composition, as well as those 5 things that you ought to know. So if you're into all of that, plus some more, stay tuned. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm Tyler. If you like what you're seeing or you find this video to be useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, or better yet, you can hit that subscribe button. Now, to really show me some love, click on the bell for alerts and notifications for future content. Oh yeah, don't forget to check out my merch store, tylermossop.com. So guys, philodendrons are definitely a favorite of mine, and the Congo Rojo is definitely not an exception here. Now, this is mine. I've had it since it was a wee little thing. I have done some other content on that, so if you are interested in seeing some other content, I'll be sure to throw up a link right here. In the meantime, I do need to repot this, so I am going to be using this slightly larger black ceramic pot with a saucer, and I will be staking it up with this cedar stake right here, just so it can get a firm grip and really kind of start to thrive and flourish. It's got a great start, and like I said, in this video I'm going to be sharing all of that information and the 5 things that you ought to know. So let's jump right into it. All right guys, so the first thing that you ought to know is what type of soil composition you should be using when it comes to generally your philodendron. In this case specifically the Congo Rojo, I'm going ahead and using 2 parts of an orchid bark mix along with this sort of peat moss forward mix, so 1 part of the peat moss to 2 parts of the orchid, and also 1 part of perlite. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this together, put some in the base of the container, and then get that plant transplanted over. So guys, giving this a really good mix, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put some into the base of this container here. Just give it a good start. Give it some height. Now this container is probably only about 1 inch or 2 wider in its diameter, so slightly larger, which will be a really good opportunity to throw a stake in there. Now I typically like to add the stake after I've transplanted, but just kind of keep an eye on where those roots are so that I'm not, staking through any of the root system. But I think with some soil in here, what I'm going to do is just throw on my gloves and see if I can get this thing out of here. Now typically it would be best to avoid watering this right before a transplant, although spring is a great time to do this. I just had watered this a day or 2 ago, so we'll see what happens here. But seems to be pretty firm in there. I'm gonna grab a bamboo stake just to see if I can loosen up the edges. All right guys, so I think I was able to loosen this very carefully. This container, this terracotta pot's kind of heavy, so I'm just trying not to make the most mess. Perfect, there we go. All right, so let's see if I can loosen some of the soil off and give you guys a better look at the roots. So it definitely wasn't root bound. That being said, the roots were definitely filling the entire container, which is kind of great because I'm pretty sure, yeah, awesome. And I had obviously put some horticultural charcoal at the base of that container, which is amazing. And you definitely need to pick some of that up, run out. But I'm not sure if you guys can see, but the roots are looking nice and healthy. So I'm gonna kind of get this guy situated into the container, and just think about, like, I think a stake would look really good and fit really nicely right here. So I'm just gonna kind of do that, fill in the rest of the soil mix and then put the stake in. Let's see how much I can do this one-handed. All right. Might actually need to mix up some more. So let's see here. All right, let's see how far this takes us. Yeah, so I think that's a great start. We might actually, let's see if we can get the stake in here. All right, I'm just kind of hesitant to let this go. All right, perfect. So before tying this up, I'm just gonna mix up a little bit more of this soil mix, fill in any little gaps. That will help the stake just be that much more secure, and then tie this up, and then we can jump into those remaining 4 things you ought to know. All right, guys, so this is looking nice and secure. The stake is nice and firmly positioned right where I want it. Now, I prefer to use this sort of Velcro tape to kind of secure my philodendron to the stake. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off a good section and then kind of just secure the Congo Rojo to the stake, and then that way it can start to climb. So let's see here. This looks about right. Just gonna pull this through and make sure it's a good firm. All right. I can just get my glove unstuck. There we go. Perfect. All right, so that is looking nice and snug in there. So let me get rid of these gloves and we can jump in to those crucial tips that you ought to know. So philodendron make great houseplants in part because they are relatively easy care, especially if you get the lighting, watering, and all of those things right. It's not difficult, so let's jump into that now. When it comes to lighting for your Congo Rojo, what I'm going to suggest is that you give it sort of dapple light, bright and direct light, and they will really thrive and flourish. What does that mean? It means that you are insetting or offsetting your house plant, 4, 5, 6 feet in from, for example, a south-facing window. If it is going to get little hits of direct sunlight, then it's best that it gets direct morning light, which is a lot less harsh than afternoon light. And if you can find that spot in your home where it's getting, hits of that great direct light and little bits of shade and then good bright indirect light throughout the course of the day, you will see your Congo Rojo grow, thrive, and flourish for sure. Now, the third thing that you ought to know is how frequently and how often, how much to water your philodendron. And what I suggest doing, there's a really simple test. If you use your finger and you just kind of gently place it at the top of the soil and even just press down about an inch into the top of that soil, if it is dry, you're not feeling any moisture, that is a great indication that it is time to water your philodendron. Now, as always, watering is a function of the quantity, the amount of light that your plant is receiving. So, if you're doing this finger test throughout the growing season, the summer, spring and summer, and the winter months, fall and winter, you may find that you're watering it a little bit more frequently, obviously in the summer than you are in the winter, but using that test and just touching this topsoil, that top inch is really kind of the best way to determine whether or not it needs a watering. The fourth thing you ought to know is about fertilization and what to do when it comes to fertilizing. Now, philodendron, just generally as a good guide, it's really important that you fertilize them throughout the spring and summer in the least. Now, what I suggest is using a well-balanced, diluted to about 50% fertilizer for your philodendron Congo Rojo here, and doing that probably every other week throughout the spring and the summer. If you can find a philodendron specific fertilizer, then all the better. You know, you can go ahead and use that as well, but these guys definitely need your help when it comes to fertilization. So pro tip, be sure to fertilize your philodendron. Now, last but definitely not least, the fifth thing you ought to know, and that extra thing you can do to really take your philodendron to the next level and really ensure that they are super happy, is humidity. Now, if you can keep your environment humid, 50–60% humidity, you can use a hygrometer. It will give you a readout of how humid your room is. Then giving this plant that extra bit of humidity is going to make it that much happier and will really ensure that it is growing and thriving as best as it possibly can. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, definitely leave a comment down below. Happy to help, but that's it for this video. Well, that's it for me. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Miss you guys already. Until the next one.